I don't know why I'm asking you about weed.
Mm.
It's gotten legalized in the US.
Mhm.
I don't have strong opinions on either way.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people who are against the legalization of marijuana all over the world, and I see that happening inevitably
Yes.
because I see it happening in America. I see it happening in a lot of other countries. I think just like alcohol addiction, it can go wrong
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, you are relying on an external substance for feeling something that your body doesn't really have to feel.
Yeah.
And in saying that, there are a lot of medical benefits of THC, CBD, obviously.
Yes.
I've also seen enough and more cases where I've seen a person dealing with some kind of chronic anxiety,
Hmm.
and sometimes this has become common in India. You get
Yeah.
gummies in India
Yeah.
now, but they are medically licensed gummies,
Mhm.
and they'll end up taking a medically licensed gummy once a week,
Mhm.
and it actually kind of has a good impact on
Yeah.
their anxiety levels.
Mhm.
But the issue there, I feel, is that people don't limit themselves to like once a week. It's just like alcohol. And I personally feel have consumed a lot of pot in my life when I was younger. I think more than once a week has some kind of a long term impact on your mind. Dr. Huberman had spoken about this in one of his podcasts. He
Mhm.
said that um, in his eyes, twice a week is as far as you should go. And if you go beyond that, uh, it leads to chronic anxiety in the long term.
Yes.
And this is besides the fact that if you have any kind of mental health trouble, like if you have
Yeah.
schizophrenia, then of course.
Of course. Yeah.
But this is the medical gauge on THC usage.
Mhm.
What do you have to say about marijuana generally, both from a Western science, MD perspective, the Ayurveda perspective? Go for it, doc.
I actually prescribe a lot of medical marijuana in my practice. The way I use it is often as a substitute to something else someone is taking. So, if someone has chronic pain and they're taking these heavy duty pain medications, I know marijuana is going to be a safer option for them, right? So, it's often as a safer alternative to something that could be far worse or far more addicting. For anxiety, I see a lot of people taking things like Xanax, right, chronically, not a good thing. So maybe switching them to a little bit of CBD, THC at night might be beneficial, helping them get off some of those medications. So that's how I use it. But it's a very thin line you have to walk. If you're just swapping one addiction with the other, it's not going to serve you in the long run. So if you are trying to cut back on more heavy duty medications like opioids, Xanax, fine, you can use it every single day. But if you're using more recreationally or just to help with a little bit of anxiety or stress, then more than once or twice, if you're using it, it will start rewiring your brain. Coming back to that idea is the more cannabinoids, THC, CBD circulating in your brain, your body's going to make more of those receptors. So now to get the same high effect, you have to take even more. You get right back into the cycle, the vicious cycle of addiction.
Which we spoke about at the start of the episode.
Exactly. Yes.
It's basically the same grandmom logic of, hey, don't do anything in excess.
Anything in excess is poison, right? So there's a lot of benefit to marijuana. There's a lot of therapeutic potential, but we need to use it in a very careful way.
Yeah. Do you think there's therapeutic potential for the average everyday human not dealing with any kind of chronic trouble? Like you said, you give it when someone has chronic pain or anxiety
Yes.
and they're taking some
Mhm.
medicine which would actually affect the liver and the kidney.
Yeah.
So this is just a safer alternative.
It is safer alternative, but doesn't mean that if you're otherwise healthy, doing fine, you don't need to necessarily get into it. It's like saying, alcohol has some benefits, a glass of wine, but if you've never had any alcohol, is wine the best way to kind of take care of it? There's so many other things you can do for your health. So I would rather not open that door. That can be a slippery slope for many people. Rather use other options.
Okay. What did doctors talk about THC usage in the West? Like when you meet other doctors, what are the conversations like?
I think the sentiment has changed tremendously in the last 10 years because in America, we face a huge opioid crisis. We were, just like antibiotics, we were writing opioid prescriptions to everyone and all the time. So we saw a massive increasing addiction and deaths from overdosing.
What happens when you take an opioid? Like you get a high?
It's the same pathway as taking heroin. So it gives you a very nice numbing effect. So people get addicted to it really quickly. And then you need higher and higher dose. And then comes a dose at which you essentially stop breathing. So we're seeing so many overdoses in so many different settings. As a country, we had a reckoning. We realized that this is a slippery slope. We have to stop this. We have to look at other alternatives. And that's where a lot of research actually went into looking at not just marijuana, even things like acupuncture, meditation, yoga. You won't believe this, but about 4 or 5 years ago, American College of Physicians, which is one of the biggest organization for doctors, came out and said to treat low back pain, which almost 1 in 2 Americans have, to treat low back pain, first-line therapy now, before you even give paracetamol or ibuprofen, they said we need to look at acupuncture. We need to look at meditation, yoga, massage. So a big body organization of physicians is saying we need to do a better job at incorporating these evidence-based Eastern medicine into our repertoire and not just jump to medications, because we have seen what it can do, the damage it can do. So imagine now doctors there are saying first line, you got to use acupuncture, meditation. So this only happens when there is so much research behind it. It doesn't happen overnight. The research is already there. The question is, are we practicing it or not?
Honestly, America's leading the way in terms of whatever America does, the rest of the world ends up copying.
Yeah.
So the fact that this body of physicians
Yes.
says this,
Mhm.
I think times are hopeful. Does the average Westerner accept these therapies though? I'm just asking from a place of curiosity, not judgment.
Yeah. There is a recent survey that said more than 40% of people in America are already using these things, right? The problem is they're not really communicating that to their doctors, or doctors are not aware how to counsel someone, because in my medical school training, I never learned about acupuncture. The shocking fact is, in my 4 years of medical training in medical school, I got 4 hours of education on nutrition. 4 hours in 4 years, even though we know diet is fundamental to literally everything we treat. So you can see there's a big gap between our medical training and what the science is really showing right now. We're lagging a lot. We have a lot of work to do to catch up.
Which is why the best doctors are the ones that stay students for life.
Yes.
Like you have to keep learning about adjacent subjects.
Yeah.
Okay.